Hello, everybody. How are you? I'm sure that you are fine wherever you are. Well, today we'll deal with a very interesting topic. People always ask, why is God not fair? Why does He not give Ishwar, the Parabrahma, God, nature, whatever you call it, why is God not fair? Why does He not give everybody the same divine power? Why this feeling of being superior and inferior? Well, we are going to deal with that exactly. And I'm going to present to you my model and the way, the ideology that I have and the example that I have created, and I've used it wherever I speak. And I'm sure that you are going to love this example. So people often ask, why doesn't God just give everyone the same amount of goodness and just keeps everything in the balance? Well, in reality, it is the same. It is 100% the same, believe it or not, but it's the allocation that is different. So this following example that we are about to consider will make things vividly and abundantly clear. So what are we going to do? Let us consider that God has given all the people, and I mean all the people, 400 units of his power. This is just an example, just a hypothetical consideration that there is some unit of divine energy and God is fair and he has given everyone 400 units of his powers. Now, all have the exact same quota and there is no distinction whatsoever. Now, to take the example further, what we are going to do is we are going to consider some common attributes. Now, there are so many of them, but for the example's sake, we will consider the following. We will consider effective speaking, we will consider optimism, we'll consider creativity, calmness and patience, decision making. So let's make the list again. Effective speaking, optimism, there's creativity, calmness and patience, and decision making, which means your focus as well. There are other attributes, but just to make my point clear, we are going to consider these common attributes, okay? And so let us continue. So let's consider the first example now. Now this one it has the same 400 units of power, divine power, but look at the allocation here. This guy is an extremely effective speaker, which means that he's an excellent speaker, a motivator, a coach, a mentor, a leader, because he's excellent at public speaking. He speaks very effectively. That's his forte. It's strong point. But at the same time, look at the optimism. Look at the decision-making ability. He's not so good at that, is he? If you make the total, is going to be 400. So God is just as fair as he can get. But the allocation is different. And so this guy is an excellent speaker. So imagine now if this guy were to look at other, let's say person B, who is extremely creative, again with the same 400 units of what everybody has. Now this guy is creative. His creativity is at 120 units, and he has also about over 100 points of units of decision making. So this guy is extremely creative. Should be in advertisement or content creation or something like that. And well, this guy, he cannot, if he is going to talk in public, or he'll not be as effective as person A. Does that mean that person A is superior to person B? No, they are different. The thing is, they are different. It's not about right or wrong. And God is just being fair to both of them. Let's consider the example even further. Let's take it a notch further. Person C here. Now, this guy has 100 units of optimism. Awesome. Okay. 100 units of power, divine power on calmness and patience. This guy is spiritual. He can be a guru. He can guide people. He is totally at peace in heart. He's just calm. This guy totally can, just make people realize what is life. He can talk philosophy. This guy is awesome. Again, the total is 400. Now in comparison, let's see another person who is D, again with 400 units. Now this guy can be a counselor. This guy is, when it comes to creativity, is just like at the top there, 150 with creativity. And at the same time, he has optimism. Now remember, one who has creativity and is extremely optimistic can be a good counselor. You have to be good at that. Then only you can be a counselor. Imagine a counselor who is not positive. That cannot work. Can it work? No. A counselor has to be optimistic. and he has to be creative in order to give good examples for the person to realize that okay, that's how things are. Again, there's this question of, you know, it being all right. It's not the question of being right or wrong. It's just the question of being different to someone else. Let's consider a person E who is a typical example of an entrepreneur here. He has got 140 units in calmness and patience, which is a key element. But he is not such a good speaker. Look at that, 40. That's not a good public speaker. But yet, his decision making is at 80. And at the same time, is optimistic. Again, you total it up, it's got to be 400. It's just as fair as it can get, guys. It's just as fair as it can get. Now, this guy is an entrepreneur. He is a leader, a business leader. He is a business person. He can really excel at a particular business model. He really, I mean, money, sure. This guy is cool at that. Now, he is not an effective speaker. So that doesn't make him good or bad. The thing is that to make draft any kind of speech, you'll have to probably hire person A, if you remember, who was excellent at public speaking, and in general he was very articulate, very eloquent. So now we will move on to the most interesting example, which is the person F. Now you are going to love the person F, because that's just the typical situation, probably the whole gist of what I have to say. Look at person F here. 400 units of divine power. You couldn't have balanced it out any better. Like perfectly 80 at everything. Believe me what I'm saying. Now if you cannot have a better balance here. 80 dot 80 5s are 400. That's it. You cannot balance it, you know, any better than this. And yet this is a typically unhappy guy who looks at somebody else and will probably say, hey, look at that, the person E, like 140 at calmness, come on, and optimism is at 100, I'm still at 80. Who will explain this guy that you are actually the perfectly normal guy? But then they also have so when even, you know, nature, God, Ishwar, Parabrahma, when they try to balance it out this way, even then people are unhappy. You know what, these guys, typically the person F is actually one of those guys who will always go to an ice cream parlor and probably go for a mixed flavor all the time. They don't have one flavor in mind. They don't want to miss out on the mango. They also want the chiku flavor. They don't want to miss out on the pineapple. So they always go for a mixed thing. And then later still complain that they don't excel at one particular thing. Hey, you chose that. So my point again is very clear. I'm sure that you're absolutely loving these examples. So it is just as fair as it can get. It's the allocation that makes a difference. Work on your strong points, see where your allocation is done, and be really happy and satisfied. Be content. And by the way, by the way of, medium of this video, you must have realized the difference between content and content. Now here I'm saying that you have to be content, and the content was a 400 divine units of power everybody had. And now just a quick question. How would you have created your personality with the traits, the attributes that I have considered? And remember that you get 400 points. And one more important thing. Have you considered this? You all are quick to complain to God like, okay, life is not fair, this and that. But imagine you had all the powers that God himself has. And then you start your own world. You create everything that is good because you want all goodness. And then at a certain point, it starts becoming boring. So you introduce, some kind of a mishap. And then there is a hero in the story. And then he makes everything right. But then eventually there was someone who did something wrong. It was a mistake. It was a correction. And that made things proper again. So eventually, even if you were given the powers of the God and you were to start all over again, eventually you will come to the stage where we are right now. I'm making a big point here. I am saying that even if you were bestowed with the same powers that God has, and you started creating your own world, you will eventually end up with the same world that we have today. Not all goody-goody, because you will yourself be bored and probably, decide to spice things up, and here we are. So I hope that you like the video. The 400 is just an example. There are so many different attributes that we did not even consider. Like there is drawing, there is music, there is aggression. That's also a useful quality. There are other things that I have not considered. But I think the example was good enough to just say, convey the message that it's not about good or bad. It's that we are different. And now imagine how silly it is to imagine that I am greater than somebody. It's laughable, is it not? Now you know everybody has 400 units. How are you greater than anybody else? It's just that your allocation was done in a different way. Your strong point is something else. You excel at something that the other person probably is not blessed with, and he excels at something, or she excels at something where you lack. You're not so good at some places. All right, then, I'm glad I could share this example with you. We will meet again soon, and let me know if you like this. You have my Telegram channel and the email ID here. Please do communicate. Take care. Until then,